the most famous leader in the Middle East, who took back Jerusalem and brought peace, Saladin. His life was full of adventures and challenges, but he always stayed kind to the people he ruled. Saladin, whose full name was Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, was born in a city called Tikrit, which is in Iraq. He came into the world in the year 1137. His family wasn't very rich, but they were good people. When Saladin was a young boy, he didn't know he would become famous one day. He played like other kids, but his life was about to change. Saladin was lucky because he got a good education. He went to school and learned many important things. He studied subjects like history, religion, and other stuff that was helpful. Even though his family wasn't super important at that time, Saladin was becoming a smart young man. As he grew up, Saladin began to go on adventures with his uncle, Shirkuh. His uncle was a strong leader, especially in the military. Saladin went along and learned how to be a good soldier and leader. These adventures with his uncle were like lessons that prepared him for the important role he would later take on. During the time Saladin was growing up, the world was full of battles and wars. Many places were fighting, and it was a difficult time. Little did Saladin know that he was just at the start of a long journey that would lead to his becoming a famous leader. Saladin's early life was filled with learning and experiences. He didn't come from a rich or royal family, but his childhood in Tikrit was the beginning of an incredible journey that would make him one of the most famous leaders in history. The adventures and lessons of his early life were just the start of something much bigger. After his early years in Tikrit, Saladin grew up and started to become a more important person. He didn't come from a rich family, but he was very smart. He learned a lot and became skilled in important things like leadership. One day, Saladin started working with his uncle, Shirkuh, who was a powerful leader. They faced many challenges and learned how to be strong together. This was a turning point for Saladin, as he began to show his skills and leadership qualities. Things started to change when Saladin and his uncle became involved in conflicts with the Crusaders. The Crusades were a series of wars that happened a long time ago. They were about religion and power. Christian crusaders from Europe wanted to take control of important places in the Middle East, like Jerusalem. They fought against Muslim forces. This is where Saladin's story gets really interesting. The year was 1187, and one of the most important moments in Saladin's life was about to happen. He and his Muslim forces were ready to fight the Crusaders for control of Jerusalem. Saladin was not just a brave warrior, but also a clever leader. He knew the Crusaders were strong, so he used his brain as well as his soldiers. He planned carefully and surrounded Jerusalem. His strategy paid off, and the Crusaders inside the city were getting worried. A siege is when you surround a city and cut off the people inside from getting supplies. That's what Saladin did to Jerusalem. The people inside were running out of food and water. It was a hard time for everyone, but Saladin was determined to win. After many weeks, the people in Jerusalem couldn't hold out any longer. They knew they couldn't win, so they surrendered. What's amazing is that Saladin showed great kindness. He didn't hurt anyone. He let the Christian and Jewish people go safely. What made Saladin even more special was the way he acted. He didn't act cruel or mean like some other leaders. When he won Jerusalem back, he allowed the Christian and Jewish people living there to be safe and practice their religions. This was unusual during those times when wars were often very brutal. Saladin's actions in the Crusades made him a famous and respected leader. He is remembered as a symbol of Muslim unity and for his efforts to stop the Crusaders. His story has been told in many books, movies, and games, and he's an important part of history. Saladin didn't just care about winning battles, he cared about the people he ruled. He made sure that people's lives and property were safe. He wanted to create a world where everyone could live without fear. This made the people who lived under his rule feel protected and cared for. Saladin believed in fairness and justice. He treated everyone equally, no matter where they came from or what they believed. He was known for his honesty and sense of fairness, and this made people respect him even more. As Saladin's life neared its end, it was the year 1193. He had lived a remarkable life full of adventures, battles, and leadership. But now, he was getting old and not feeling well. The news of his illness spread, and many people were saddened, both those who admired him and even some of his former enemies. Saladin passed away in his tent in Damascus. His death marked the end of an era in the Middle East. He had been a wise and respected leader, known for his fairness and kindness even in times of war. Many people mourned his death, and his passing left a big gap in the world. Even though Saladin was gone, his legacy continued. His legacy is not just about his military victories, it's also about his character. People remember how he showed kindness and mercy in times of war. He allowed people of different religions to live in peace. This made a big impact on the world and showed that even in tough times, one can act with compassion. Saladin's leadership style influenced many leaders who came after him. They admired his sense of fairness and justice. His story inspired them to be compassionate and just in their own leadership roles. He set an example for leaders to follow, not only in the Middle East, but all over the world. Even today, Saladin is remembered and respected. His legacy is celebrated in books, movies, and other forms of art. His life story has been told for generations and continues to inspire people to work for peace, understanding, and kindness. Saladin's legacy is a reminder that one person can make a huge impact on the world. He was a great leader, not just because of his military conquests, but because of the values he upheld. His death marked the end of his life, but his legacy lives on, teaching people about the power of compassion and justice. Hope you enjoyed this story to the Middle East and its famous general. Comment what you think about him, and who should we introduce next. Until then, subscribe, so you don't miss out on the next one.